Good morning. Apologies for giving the wrong URL in the other channel, the order flow channel. I scheduled today's, tomorrow's and Friday's YouTube, and I just copy and pasted the wrong URL in. But here we are, we're here now. So today is the 29th of January 2025, just 2 more trading days to go in the month. Before we start, let's look to see what news could and may move the market. So we did have 8:30 news come in, and we saw we already had a bit of a sell-off in the pre-market, and it just went a bit sideways, a bit of an indecision candle. But the main one today, the one which could potentially move the market, is the FOMC Fed interest rate decision, and also the press conference which follows at 2:30 Eastern time. So be a bit wary. We may see a bit of a strange day leading up to that. Sometimes you can get market just go sideways waiting for that. Okay, so let's just crack on with some levels. Let's start off with the daily, and then we'll go down the time frames. So we're looking at the S&P 500 E-mini futures on the 1 hour time frame. You can see we had this sell off here, big push up, back up into this area of potential overhead supply, and then we lost that area and we couldn't break through that area, and then we put in a bit of a green day yesterday in response to this sell-off day on Monday. So we opened up here. I think we sold off a bit and then finished off the day strong. I did an okay trade. I took the break and retest of pre-market low, and I managed to get about an hour out of that before it reversed and stopped me out, or I stopped out at break even for the rest. But we are putting in this kind of pattern right now. Maybe the Nvidia was a bit of an overreaction, which is why we sold off, and then we're just starting to resume normal service again. But notice the increased volume on the green candle yesterday compared to the previous day's green candles. So see how small those candles are. Similar size roughly. I'm not sure how you can look into that, but we are watching a few key areas here. We've got this area which we're right at right now, and technically it's an area of demand. Could say we might see it hold this level and maybe retest these highs again, but nothing really. RSI is midway as well, so we've not got anything really which could let us indicate which way it could go. So we could watch. I'm going to be quite neutral today and going to play the levels which I normally play. So let's go into the 1 hour time frame. We've got this hourly uptrend which is holding. Look how lovely that held in the pre-market as well. Came right down, touched it, and bounced. Well, we are just about bouncing, but I am watching for the break of this trend line. So 60.78, 60.77, that area, 60.79 I meant, is I'm watching for the break and the retest. I need to start scalping these retests a bit more, because we're just missing the follow through we want. But to be fair, I did try going short there, break and retest, while we put in an hourly uptrend, so maybe I was going a little bit against trend. Same today if I try and take this again, so maybe try and work a bit better on that side of things. I do quite like continuation. If we can break over yesterday's high and pre-market high, come back and retest that area, we can watch for the long into this zone, and this is my rejection area. I like this area for rejection purely because we've got this big volume shelf. It's a point of control as well. We had a big reaction last time we were there. We had this big reaction down, gap down as well. So it's a big zone to watch, and so it's a matter of waiting for it to poke into that zone, come back out, and maybe come and retest it. So that's what I'll be looking for, something like that today, a rejection up here. And as for bounces, I do quite like yesterday's low area for a bounce. We've got volume to that side as well, so probably can watch around 60.38, 60.30 for the bounce. So I've got a level ready, which is this area of confidence. I'll keep that in place there, and I've got this level as well, this area of confidence. So bottoms of those pivots, gap, and the tops of these recent pivots as well, and bottoms of the pre-market. So I'm looking for a break and retest up here, or potentially a rejection, because what we could also be looking at, we do have a bit of volume there as well, not as much as what's above, but what we could be looking it to do is kind of curve around maybe. So just keep an eye on that as well. And that's it, keep it really simple. FOMC today at 2 PM Eastern time, so we may see a bit of market movement, but my main goal is to watch for the break of that trend line, come back up and retest that area for the short. I won't trade FOMC, so if it doesn't play out in the next couple of hours, first 2-3 hours of the market, then I'll probably just sit and watch the rest of the day. So 2 areas, pre-market high, pre-market low to watch really, and then we've got the rejection and a potential bounce down here. Obviously keep an eye on 6,000, psychological number as well. There's a bit area confluence and there's a bit of volume coming in as well, so potentially that area there, 6,000 to 598 for a potential bounce. Moving over to SPY next. In fact, let's go back to ES and let's look at the order flow, because there's something interesting setting up. You can see quite clearly the divergence on my screen. Yep. So okay, so I'll leave this open as well to remind you of the FOMC. So keep an eye on that if you want to remind what time it is. But you can see this divergence here. So we've got decrease in price, we've got increase in cumulative delta, and then finally around 8 o'clock it followed the same trend as the price. But we've now put in a lot of positive delta, so we've got lots of aggressive buying going on, and the price is not really reflecting that aggressive buying, because we're putting in new, or retesting these pivots up here, whereas the price is nowhere near retesting the pivots here. So are we getting a lot of aggressive buying and the sellers are just absorbing all that buying? Maybe an area to watch for a break and retest. We are pretty close to the pre-market low, which is 60.79 roughly, so this area here. So potentially we could watch for a break of that area and retest. This is a first clue that we might be seeing a reversal. Lack of aggressive buy-in here as well is showing the reversal, but it's pre-market volume, so I won't look into it too much. And we've got selling. If you look, we've got selling imbalances as well. Big imbalance, 2 imbalances there, 2 imbalances there. Big one up here as well, with the lack of buyers on the ask. Is usually a sign in normal market conditions that we may have more selling than buying. We've obviously got negative delta and very neutral deltas here, so neutral deltas, plus or minus 50 or so. You can see positive delta, the 300s, 100s, 200s. Negative delta is we had a negative 50 there on the green bar, so you expect to have a positive delta if it's going to be pushing up hard. But the positive greens have just been quite low. We had this big one here, I say big one, 300, and then it was neutral, neutral, neutral. So to me right now it's looking like the sellers are in control. Not saying they're going to win, but they're in control as we are speaking right now. Okay, but that's pre-market levels. Let's just flick back to my main screen. So that's ES, so keep an eye on break and retest of pre-market low, which we might be seeing some signs in the order flow right now. Keep an eye on pre-market high, break and retest, and then we've got bounce levels at yesterday's low, and we've got this point of control area, watch for rejection, in fact this entire zone. And even though I've marked off where the volume is, you can see that volume spike there and that volume spike there. You can keep an eye on that entire zone, because if we push up hard at FOMC today, maybe we might see something like that. Okay, SPY next. Look at my comments. Good morning, Charles. Hope you are well. Hopefully you traded okay yesterday and had a good day. It's a relatively good day for me as well. 1 hour. I feel like I'm back on winning ways. I had 9 losing trades in a row last week. Just couldn't get. I had a few days where or a few trades where they were just impulse trades, not in my plan, and they were in red. I think that made me more frustrated, and then I had a few days where the break and retest just didn't work out. But Thursday, Friday, Monday, yesterday was all. Well, yesterday, Monday was a break-even day, but yesterday was a green day, and I feel like I'm back on track. Just important not to get overconfident. So we are now looking at SPY, same as ES. We can watch this region here, 608. There's a gap fill there as well for rejection. Maybe all the way up to 610. This is the new all-time highs. Notice how ES is nowhere near all-time highs, but SPY and SPX are putting in all-time highs. I do quite like break and retest of pre-market high, 606, 605, 43 area. Break and retest long into this region. That's our first target. And obviously we're sitting right on this area of demand right now. Big volume, or not a big, but a volume shelf as well. So we may find it hard to break through, but we could watch potentially in this area for a bounce. You know, we could just be continuing this trend before we get into that area and then lose it. But obviously if we do lose pre-market low, keep an eye on the break and retest into that region. We want to see it break out and back into that region really. That would be the ideal scenario. And then you can keep an eye on this big volume shelf here. So where I've drawn that level, tops of that pivot, tops of that pivot, bottoms of those pivots, tops and bottoms of pivots here, and it's yesterday's low area as well. So 598.85, we can watch that area for a bounce. I think that's it for SPY. SPX levels, pretty much the same as we've been watching. These levels have been in place for a long time. I've barely touched them, but you've got tops of here, bottoms of that pivot, and look where we came into yesterday. Came right up into that area. Bit of confluence. This is a bit of area of confluence there, a bit of hiccup there, and you can see we came in, we hovered around it, and then broke out. And so just keep an eye on the rejection of 6100, and then obviously the levels, the previous levels we had. We've got 6,000 key psychological number, so keep an eye on that area. You can see once we got above 6,000, there was no stopping it. And so if we do get back down into that region, we do have an area of confidence, a little bit of volume which you expect at 6,000. We've got areas of confidence there, bottoms of candles, tops of candles there, and a pullback into that area as well, plus this bit where we broke out, came back, broke out, came back. So 6,000's key area. NQ. Let's keep an eye on this 21,900 area. It's an area of confluence. I like that because we've got a pivot, a breakdown, it held it and then lost it. We've got a gap fill, we've got bottoms of pivots, tops of pivots here, tops of pivots here, and we have this volume shelf as well. So that's a good area to watch for rejection. Otherwise, we do have a volume shelf there. Could potentially watch 21,750, 21,615. Where we are right now is a bounce area. You can see that big area of confluence, pivot, yesterday's high. So let's keep an eye on a break and retest of pre-market high into this region. Potentially, if we lose this area of where we're sitting right now, if we lose pre-market low, come back up and retest it, look for the rejection. Otherwise, we've got this massive amount of volume. It's big. Let's just put this region here. It's going to be hard to find a trade in that area, but we could come back in, watch for the point of control, and try and find a trade coming back out, something like that. We are a long way from that area as it is right now. We're not really that long away, but you know, we're not close to it. We're right in between. Where are we right now? In between pre-market low, pre-market high. So prefer it to be close to one of these, so we can watch for a higher probability break and retest, or break and retest long. But right in the middle, so it might be one of those days where we might just chop around until FMOC decides to go one way or the other way. QQQ. Again, not a big fan of QQQ. We're right in this zone here. When we need to do something, we need to either break out of it down below, or we need to break out of it and put in newer highs. Is that all-time highs there? I'm not sure. I don't think so. That might be. That is all-time highs. Yeah. Okay. So. Oh no, sorry. I'm thinking of that. So that's all-time highs over here. So again, like Nasdaq, watch for the break and retest pre-market high 524.50. If we lose the low, then potentially we could be losing this trend line. So let's watch for the break and retest. We do have this area of confidence, but it's on a volume void, so probably best to keep an eye on. In fact, I will move that to that area there. You can probably make the argument of taking in the tops of these pivots here as well. This region here we can watch. Bit of a volume shelf. Areas of confidence as well. 518, let's watch 518 to 519 for a potential bounce. Otherwise we can watch yesterday's low for the bounce. Okay, let's move on to oil. Catching runs. Been running pretty well during the market hours. Normally we see a lot of movement before market hours on oil through the European market. You can clearly see this downtrend, this region here. So are we putting in a change of trend? We've not been able to break down that pivot. We've not been able to break that pivot. We held it as a double bottom. So I do quite like the break of pre-market high, the pullback into this region to continue the trend up. And that's probably the only trade I like. Maybe watch for a rejection in this area, 75.50. We've got starting off this volume shelf as well. And if we pull back down into pre-market low, which is also the point of control, we can probably watch for a break and retest short. And then that'll be continuing this trend, but only if we don't break the trend there. So if we see it whip out, come back down, whip down, then I wouldn't be interested. And I think that's it for oil. I will put an alert here because I do quite like the change of trend. So 74 on my alert will go off, and that will just remind you, just keep an eye on it. And we talked about this yesterday, and I said potentially. We've got a neckline, this region, we've got a left shoulder, we've got this head. I did say that maybe this could be in the right shoulder, but maybe it's just part of the right hand shoulder. I'm not too fast if it's not being a perfect pattern, but what I like to see is a neckline. I like to see an area that could resemble a left shoulder, a head, and a right shoulder. Basically, I'm looking for a higher high than a higher low. That's what I'm looking for. Depends on what happens today. So if we break and retest pre-market high, then that pattern's invalid. If we break and retest pre-market low, then we can keep an eye on a break and retest of this point of control area. Obviously, you can keep an eye on the pre-market high, pre-market low for a play as well. And then rejection, the only rejection, there's a volume shelf there, so I do quite like this region here. 27.80 for the rejection, and then the bounce back down here on the trend line. Sorry, the point of control. RTY, almost there. How are we doing for time? Loads of time. RTY is curving over. You can see that we've had this trend line. The trend line was broken, and we've been holding this area, so you can see it curving over. The moving average is the 50. You can tell from the 50 moving average, it might be changing trend, starting to curve over. So we have this area of confidence right where we are in the pre-market. So one or two plays, we can watch for the rejection of yesterday's high, or we can look for the break and the retest back down into 2300. It's the only area I'm watching really. We can watch the bounce, yesterday's low, and then we do have this area up here to watch for potential rejection. Look where the volume is coming in, is about there, so potentially 23.15, 23.20 is the start of that zone where we can watch for the volume. And I think that's it for RTY. And then finally the Dow Jones is looking a lot stronger than most of them right now. Big uptrend. I'll ignore that little spike because that just moved with the NVIDIA. You might want to add another trend line in. But coming into this overhead, look where we rejected this area we were watching. Volume. We've got a volume shelf. It's starting on the volume shelf. We've got areas of confluence, bottoms of candles, and we came right into it yesterday in the high 45.160. So let's watch that area again for a potential double top or a break and retest. And if we're watching for the break and retest, and potentially we've taken the pre-market high at 4,500, break and retest long. So 4,500 is a psychological number. Let's zoom in. Well, 4,500 is about there, pretty much where we are now. So let's keep an eye on this area for it to hold. And we do have this volume shelf below, which could act as support. So, but I do quite like the break and retest a pre-market high at 45.50. And then finally, Bitcoin. I've not even looked at that today. Okay, so what do we see? We see this pattern. And then we see it break out. You can't get any better definition of it narrowing. Look at this. We come in, hit the extremes of this pattern, hit the extremes, and then we narrow, and then look at that, boom, just sold straight off. I know that's the NVIDIA day. Was that the NVIDIA day, 27th? Yeah. So that didn't help, I know. But now, what do we see now? It's come back up. It's retested this region here. And then we've rejected. And then, but we are holding that trend. Are we putting in another? This is a bit of a bear flag it's putting in. So similar to what we've seen there, going to the extreme, to the extreme, to the extreme. So let's keep an eye on this. If we break over pre-market high, let's look for the break and retest. If we lose pre-market low, yesterday's low, let's look for the break and retest down to 100,000. 100,000 is a key area, big psychological number. You can see the volume shelf there as well. Would have expected to see more volume at 100,000 because it's such a significant number. But we do have pivots, a gap. Is that a gap? Maybe it's a gap. Pivots, bottoms pivots as well. So let's watch this area for a bounce. If we lose 100,000, then we could potentially watch for the break and retest into it, back down to 92. And that's it. Pretty much nothing else. Let's just quickly look at order flow very briefly for ES. So we're putting in this round, and this is a 2-minute candlestick, and we're coming into this region here. Now we've got strong cumulative delta, and the numbers are in their positives as well. And look at this, we've got, since we last spoke, we've got lots of green delta coming in. We were looking at it here, weren't we, where we saw these neutrals, and now we've got the green deltas. So not massive high numbers, but you know, for pre-market, maybe today is going to be one of those anticipation days waiting for FOMC. Nothing really to give a clue what's going to happen when the market opens. But just to recap, levels we're watching on ES. We're watching the 79 area down here, I believe. Is it 79? It might be 78 for the break and retest short. So this region down here, that's the pre-market low, break and retest. That's 70, 60, 80, 60, 79. So just basically this region here. We've got a lot of buying coming in right now, but we are getting close to market open. You can see that. Look at that big volume there. Positive delta, look at that, 600, 700 delta. When you compare all the previous deltas, not once has it gone anywhere over 300 there. This is double the delta on a smaller candle. Double this delta here, That's a full 10 range candle there. We've not hit 10. The reason I use a 10 range is because you see 10 ticks basically. So we can see there's a lot of buying and selling going on, and it's more buyers than sellers. The sellers are, so there might be a big seller sitting up here somewhere. You can see that big aggressive buying coming into that. So let's see what the market does when we open. Okay, that's it. 3 minutes before the market opens. Trade safe, manage your risk, and I will be back tomorrow at 9 AM. But I will be on the live stream, which is the order flow live stream, and I'll be keeping an eye on that today. And I'm only going to trade if I have any A+ setups, which I recommend everyone to do. No need to jump into any trades. Okay, thank you for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.